Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a new tech, and it also happens to feature the Rift mode with 2 anomalies against Kamos. I'm also wearing the Santa hat because this video should come out on Christmas Eve, and well, it is the season, right? So this video, next video, likely will have the Santa hat. Kamos decides to go for my favorite specialist, the elite specialist, and we end up with a very solid supply specialist. I decided to go for the ball opener here with the crawlers, and the anomalies are mechanical evolution and barren land. So there are no buildings, and we have the mechanical evolution spell, which allows us every round to evolve one of our units into something that is worth 100 more. And I do that, and I level up one of my steel balls to get a level 2 Rhino here on round 1. Very nasty, hard to deal with, maybe outdone by something like a round 1 level 2 Phoenix, but very happy about this first evolve. I was planning to just play Hounds here. It's the one thing I'm lacking. I don't have Chaff Clear, and so yeah, that plan persists. My opponent levels a Marksman after he picked up 2 with his Sledgehammer Crawler opener and gets a level 4 Crawler on that right side. Very powerful, but it's on the wrong side of the board, compared to where I'm pushing. Now I decided to play mid-range here, a bit further back. This is a setup that I kind of stole from Cast, who is really popularized, I would say, this type of Hound Staircase and had a lot of success with it in, the Mag 1 League against some of the highest rated opponents. So I'm pretty happy to just copy that setup and try and play it that way. Being a bit further back makes you a bit safer, and it also allows you to go for some very nasty flank pulls where you'll be able to pull even more of the enemy board because your units aren't as close to the enemy as opposed to, if you were on the line. And we might see some of that later. Now, yeah, this Rhino is going to be a pain to deal with. My opponent also, deployed symmetrically, and half of his units are going to go for my other tower. He does manage to get the debuff, but I don't think it's going to matter too much because we have a steel ball pack, we have all of our hounds, we have a level 2 Rhino, and yeah, it's really nasty here on round 1. So we are set to win. And then from there on, it'll be, our opponents basically roll to try and stabilize and get through this. So here we go. Chopping up those high-level crawlers, and we do get round 1 win. Round number 2, nothing special, although we do get photon coating or shield airdrop, both of those worth picking. And I think to myself, well, photon coating is very nice here on that level 2 Rhino. I do think I want to keep it for at least one more round, see what my opponent, is deciding to go for. And I think that's the best approach. I'll probably level my other steel ball. It was rather useful, but I think it is good to at least level something every round and get those 100 extra resources of value. I could have gone for the shield airdrop as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Protects the hounds from potential missiles, which is pretty nice, but the photon coating gives a lot of tankiness. I happened to level my steel balls into a very high level Void Eye pack. Wasn't too sure what to think about that, although it does have a ton of damage and it one-shots the enemy sledgehammers, so probably pretty good to have it. Kamos here decides to level his level 4 crawler and gets a marksman in return, level 6. If that locks onto my Rhino, I think it will be able to take it out. That's a lot of DPS all of a sudden. He picks up the photon coating as well on his sledgehammers, and he goes for double blue arc lights to try and deal with my crawlers and my low-level hounds. So that is the round so far. And as for myself, I was a bit worried about anti-air, which is typically something you should think about, and maybe go for a Phoenix, but considering he had Marksman, I was kind of willing to take the gamble here and rather try and get more hounds on the field so I can, justify going for something like Range Hound on round 3. Which is very important when you play hounds in this fashion. You want to try and get the techs as fast as possible because they are very reliant on set techs. Sadly here, the Void Eyes kind of get stuck. My hound's not helping them out too much. My Rhino does get locked on by that scary level 6 marksman, so it will end up falling. But I have a ton of crawlers still in the middle and no arc light over there. For Kamos means that he will lose his marksman at the hand of my crawlers, or the paws, or the claws. I don't know what crawlers have, to be honest, but, they do get the job done. And here we are, round number 2, another victory. Very happy with that. I'm supply spec, so I didn't start with the most hit points, and I kind of have to justify, you know, the early game and mid-game power of supply specialist by getting those wins. Round number 3, orbital bombardment shows up. I mean, there's something to be said maybe for, I would say, subsidized arc lights, although I'm already invested into Hound, so really, what am I doing? Amplify core. Very rarely pick that item. I think it's a bit too expensive in most scenarios. And Bombard is Bombard on round 3. Such a powerful spell. You're likely to see it again. And yeah, I mean, shielding here, you can do it, but it's you know, that's an expensive round. Taking the orbital and shielding, that's 250 resources, even a bit more if you count not skipping. So 300 resources even. Just gone, especially if I manage to take down that shield immediately. High-level marksman gets transformed into a level 2 Farseer, but it gets sold immediately. Kamos here goes for the shield, the orbital, another sledgehammer on the left. Undoes. Maybe thinks about keeping that Farseer. I level my Rhino now because I was like, well, it went down pretty quick into that marksman, and I thought he might keep it because it was relatively useful. He didn't. So in hindsight, I could have kept the Rhino, but yeah, I wasn't too sure. I thought it would definitely get countered. I could have leveled up or evolved the Void Eye there as well. Instead, I get a Tarantula, and I decide to range my Hounds. The Tarantula I'm pushing into the right side because I was expecting him to orbital me. I don't go for the shield because I don't want to lose that 100 resources, and I kind of want to try and get an economic advantage here if I can. I will say the orbital hits pretty nicely for me as it does not hit my Hounds there whatsoever, so the Void Eyes are able to take down the shield as my Tarantula gets to the tower and grabs a debuff. It looks like I will be able to win here. So very happy about that. And again, this is something that you can do a lot as well in Mechanical Evolution. You can go for these very aggressive plays, put units on the flanks or on the line, because next round you can just evolve it and you will retrieve it, right? It will turn into a new unit, and that new unit will be able to be repositioned somewhere, and it'll be retrieved effectively from the flank. Round number 4, unit reinforcements. We were waiting for them. And here I thought to myself, ooh, is this a scenario where we can try and play some Fortress with the new tech? Because I do currently run Solid Shot. It's probably the tech I've been trying to play with the most. And, well, I saw the opportunity here and I was like, let's just go for it. Fortress pairs very nicely with Hound. I will likely do a video on that as well. But this is more so about the fortresses with that Solid Shot. I'm not quite convinced this tech is very good. In fact, I think it's probably worse than range. But it does allow for some pretty funny games, and you can build some interesting comps with it. So here we go. I decide to, of course, evolve my Tarantula. It turns into a hacker. I sell that hacker, and now I have a lot of money to go for triple fortress with Solid Shot. And my opponent kind of has a similar idea there, perhaps. As he goes for the fortress as well, or turns it into a level 2 fortress. And yeah, has that Solid Shot available as well. Keep in mind I am running Launcher Overload and Elite Marksman, so my techs here were a little bit better than his perhaps, although he has the Giga range set up. But I think having Overload is somewhat mandatory because your attack interval becomes very, very slow when you click Solid Shot. 2.5, you kind of want to try and at least bump that down with the Overload. Tons of levels as well available, by the way. So this fortress on the left manages to grab one. The one on the right manages to grab one too. And very happy about how this turned out. I want to pick up the levels here where and whenever possible, because that'll help once I get, you know, to something like Elite Marksman to boost my damage and also further boost my range. Round number 5, Ion Blast shows up. Probably something that I should pick. Additional deployment slot is nice, but I wasn't convinced I was going to get all the value out of that, and it just feels really awkward to skip Ion Blast here. I could do it if I think that we're not going to see it again and try to again save some money, but okay, that is indeed what I'm going to do. Bit of a risky move, but I guess I wanted all the money here to try and really get ahead in those fortress techs. And so no Ion Beam for me, and he will go for it. I do now get to level everything. So both of the fortresses, all of my hounds. I also pick up a wasp spawn, or a wasp swarm, rather, spell to try and annoy those enemy marksmen and really punish the lack of anti-air from my opponent. And I level up my Void Eye finally, or evolve it into a level 3 Wasp, which I'm going to keep on that right side. This will protect my flanks, and it'll also kind of be my anti-air for the time being, because I don't have any right now, aside from that Wasp pack. Opponent goes for Stormcaller from the looks of things, and just fleshes out the board a bit more with the Arc Lights, which do now have range. It doesn't really look like he wants to go into a Fortress deck. So perhaps looking for something else. Hounds, I am running Chamber Compression on them. I think the tech is quite good, and that is something I would like to highlight in a future video as well. I've been seeing it a ton. Although this game, again, more so about solid shot. But in this scenario, I mean, I could click it. I think Mech Rage also could be quite useful. In the meantime, we did a decent job of, you know, not dying really to that Ion Blast too much. The Wasps on the right side are doing a great job of pressuring the marksman. Might even get a debuff. And hopefully this fortress will be able to take down the enemy fortress without going down itself. Looks like that will happen. Nice debuff there with the Wasps. And this will be a round win just by default, because my opponent doesn't have any anti-air. Fortress also picks up another level here, so potentially level 3 can go for that elite marksman, very cheap tech, and just boost the damage and range even more, and kind of make sure that ground-wise there's not much my opponent can do, and he might be forced to go into the air. Amplifying Core this time shows up. Now I will pick it because I feel like, well, seems pretty good on a level 3 Fortress. That's a lot of bonus stats. Don't mind if I do. I evolve another unit, the Wasps, and I immediately sell whatever came out of it to get even more resources, and now we can go for that second tech. I don't go for Elite Marksman here because I didn't feel like I needed the range. Didn't see stuff like Melting Point from the opponent, and so I'd rather go for that Launcher Overload to get through the smaller units a bit quicker. With the attack speed, we can get through sledges much faster. The opponent here levels up his Fortress into the Mustang. I keep saying level up, but I have to get used to the evolution mechanic in this particular game mode. Decides to sell it, and indeed takes to the skies with the Abyss. Now, as I mentioned, I don't have great anti-air, so this will be a default win for my opponent. I guess I wasn't really expecting the Abyss, and well, I wanted to try and make the ultimate Fortress board here, so I really was focused on making that happen. Next round, we'll likely have to just build a Melting Point. Sometimes you can get away with anti-air barrage, but usually I wouldn't recommend it. It kind of requires you to have a ton of fortresses, and it also requires the Abyss to be low level. By that I mean level 1. It's not going to be enough to kill a level 2 Abyss. Most certainly not. It will take way too long to get through it, and even more so if the opponent buys multiple Abysses. So I'm going to have to go for Melting Point. The good thing for us is the rest of our board is looking pretty solid. I have my chaff clear, I have my chaff, my fortresses are really tanky, and, well, the rest of the ground units from my opponent aren't really able to do too much here. So despite the loss of the round, we may be able to take out all of the remaining units here, and I think that's good enough for me. I'm alright taking 500 damage here, we were still full health. And now we're just waiting for the fortresses to get swept up by this Abyss, and then we can finally go for our answer in round number 7. So Melting Point here forced. Not much I can do about it. We do get unit reinforcements. No Melter in there. So likely just be looking to go for something like Overlord, evolve it, and potentially sell whatever came out of it. I did do that. So Overlord got evolved into a 600 cost unit, which we then sold for profit, and now we go for double Melting Point with range behind our fortresses. Opponent also goes for Overlord, I believe, and evolves that into a Hacker. Looks like he might keep it. I think at this point, though, it might be better. Yeah, okay, he does sell it. 2,000 resources available to him. And goes for Mustang. So he was afraid here that I would go back into Wasp, which I didn't think he would expect me to go into Wasp again, because I didn't even have it unlocked. My Wasps were all evolved into, and if you evolve into a unit, you don't get the unlock, crucially. It doesn't work quite the same as unit drops. And, well, beating a level 2 Abyss with Wasp, it's possible, but it takes double tech, level 2 Wasps, a bit too risky in my eyes, and so I thought he would expect the Melter, and maybe go into more Abysses, but no, just ranges the one Abyss and goes for Mustang, which happens to be pretty good into the other thing I did this round, which is Loose Formation. I rarely click this tech, but in this scenario against Sledgehammers and Mass Arclight, it seemed like a pretty good pickup, but maybe I get punished for it because those Mustangs are going to be relatively useful against them. Either way, can we lock on to the Abyss? That is the main question here. And if I can't, then I might have a problem. We are doing relatively well shaft gear-wise, I would say, but maybe a little bit slower than I would like, so Mech Rage definitely on my mind. And yeah, look at that. Not great. Some of the Mustangs functioning as late chaff, and ooh, that beam passing through the melting point, killing it, means that I only have one more melting point left. This one should be safe, but the Abyss might be able to take down a whole bunch more of my giants. Takes down one more level 2 fortress, takes down some chaff, some hounds, and then starts working on that level 1 fortress, which will go down. Thankfully for me, the melting point locks on, and it looks like we will be able to win the round with 2 or 3 giants even still alive. So Kamos now down to 1500. If I manage to win very cleanly, I might be able to just close this out within 1. Lightning Storm here gets offered. On the round, Orbital Bombardment comes back. And felt like pretty much a no-brainer for me. Now, what I do here, a little bit dubious maybe. I go for the stack of the Lightning and the Orbital. The reason I did that is because I felt like I might be able to break shields that way before both spells are done. And then kill everything inside without needing to, you know, break the shields with things like melting points or the fortresses, because he can bubble pretty far back, and you can see that is what he's doing. So that was my idea. Whether it works out, we'll have to see. The obvious, you know, alternative play would be to just layer them left and right. My opponent has an orbital back of cooldown, but didn't go for the storm. Instead, they opt to go for the smoke bomb right in front here. Not sure I like that so much, but it could create some trouble for my hounds. I think all of the other units would easily stay out of it. And we see a second Abyss now with Mustangs behind, picked up on that right side. I'm not really going to be focusing too much on the evolutions anymore. In fact, I was unsure what to level up here, because I was pretty happy with my board overall. I decided to level one of my fortresses because I felt like it wasn't doing too much, and just kind of get some money back so I can level my other fortresses and also, you know, grab some melting points. But at this point, I feel like mechanical evolution becomes pretty tough because you kind of have the board that you want, and you don't want to evolve any of your existing units into anything else because you want to keep them. So then the question becomes, do you want to, you know, pick up a unit and use a deployment to gain 100 extra value? Maybe, but you know, you will also lose a deployment if you then decide to sell it because you didn't get something you like. Either way, this round, we're doing all right. I am locking onto that right side Abyss, so happy about that. But left side, even right side, you can see that the hounds have all perished. So chaff clear seems to be my main problem here. And I can't really rely on my fortresses because even with launcher overload, the attack interval is a little bit too slow, and I also lose splash because of solid shot, so I really have to fire a lot to get through smaller targets. Thankfully for me, the melting point still manages to win, and we will win this round, but it will leave Kamos alive at 91 hit points. So can we somehow, you know, get this win? This round it might be tough. We do see unit reinforcement show up on round 9, but the Ion Blast that I didn't pick up is back. So this round, normally speaking, should be favored for Kamos, and Abysses do scale pretty well, so I have to be careful here. Decide to just pick up something there. Looks like it was the Typhoon, which I evolved into a high-level Phantom and then sold to get more money. And at this point, I was basically just focusing on getting more Hounds. I felt like Hounds were the main thing I needed, some late chaff clear, so that is what we're going to be focusing on. Temp range obviously picked up here with the loan, and here come the elite recruited Hounds. 3 of them, and kind of positioned further in the back to make sure that when these Hounds at the very forefront die, we have the backup to save us. Opponent goes for Subterranean Blitz, very, very powerful tech. I decided to go for Subterranean Blitz as well. A little bit of a forbidden tech maybe with the loose formation, but it still works pretty nicely. The loose formation is good into the Arclights, and the Subterranean Blitz at least helps a tiny bit against the opponent Mustang. I also have double attack and double defense enhancement. And, well, let's see how this goes. I did bubble as much as possible against the Ion Blast. Most of my Giants are so high level that they shouldn't die to the Ion, but it might kill a couple of my Hounds, which could be problematic. Wasp Swarm on the right side. And here we go. Can we close out this game on round 9? Subterranean Crawler is definitely a bit annoying. At level 1 and double defense enhancement plus Subterranean Blitz, I think they still don't get one-shot by level 2 Hounds with double attack, which is kind of ridiculous, but that is, yeah, that is the case. So Subterranean Blitz potentially really, really annoying. I also didn't have the money to go for Mechanical Rage here immediately, and you can see the chaff clear just not amazing. Thankfully, though, I do manage to lock on to the enemy Abyss, but it manages to kill my melting point there, even though it was locked on. And now that leaves these Stormcallers. Opponent went for EMP on them, and they are really bullying my Giants. My melting point is trying to do its very best. Looks like it will be able to take out a few of them, but another pack is still alive, and of course there's the ranged Abyss as well that now takes a tower, as all of my Giants are starting to walk into that smoke. And yeah, level 2 Abyss has a ton of damage available, and it will snipe my melting point. So we were awfully close, but that one Abyss manages to stay alive and clean up the board, so it's going to take more than round 9 to finish this. This round, we get a Nano Repair Kit. Both of us pick it up. I felt like, you know, throwing it on a level 3 Fortress can't be wrong for how cheap that item is at this stage of the game. I decided to triple tech my Hounds. I felt like my opponent was, you know, chaff clearing a decent bit with the late Mustang. So if I could somehow get them stuck on Hounds, I'd be pretty happy with that. And Mech Rage is just there to get through the chaff a bit quicker. At this point, I felt like I had everything. I don't really need to buy more melting points. I expected maybe one more Abyss to show up here or here, so I didn't want to keep this melting point, and it seems like I was right. Now Vertical Sweep picked up. Gives a ton of extra range to the Abyss, so that should help it staying out of range of the melting point. And there's always the odd chance that the beam goes through a unit and then hits my melting point in the back, which could be very annoying. More and more Hounds picked up now in the back as, yeah, well, I felt like that was the only thing here that could, you know, prevent me from winning, is just not having enough chaff clear, and it felt like we still had some issues. So more and later Hounds was the thing I went for. And look at these Abysses with the Vertical Sweep. Their range is just so high, and they're starting to almost hit those Giants in the back. Here comes another beam. Not the greatest at chaff clearing, I would say. Generally speaking, the Abyss Vertical Sweep isn't really an upgrade, chaff clear wise, but it can be a better way of sniping some of these Giants in the back. And indeed, look at that. Melting point taken out, the other one crippled. The EMP from the Stormcallers now chipping in, removing the range from my melting point. This one still fine. We'll be able to take down at least one Abyss from the looks of things, but then it still has to fight those Stormcallers. And sadly, my Fortress, even though it has a lot of range with the techs, without, it's just a sitting duck. And a sitting duck that these Abysses will very happily get rid of. So round number 10 not going my way either, and suddenly things are starting to look a little bit scary. Round number 11 Photon Emission picked up for Kamos. And I was thinking about picking up the Electromagnetic Impact. Feels like it's just a very cheap spell. And if I can hit the Abysses and he doesn't happen to pick up the Photon Emission, or guess incorrectly where I put that EMP, then I think it's just worthwhile, right? Cripple the Abysses, remove their range, maybe get those early lock-ons with the melting points. Felt like the right move. Aside from that, I didn't really know what else to do. Leveling the melting points seems like a decent idea here. Maybe I should level my towers, just in case the missiles come out or the beam sweeps through it. But I think for against a level 2 Abyss, you actually need to make a level 3 tower, which is very, very expensive. I also will need to buy more and more hounds. This simply isn't quite enough yet, so maybe we just need to put some hounds all the way up against the backboard. Here we go, some shields, because I thought maybe he would take the EMP as well. Have to make sure that we do keep our techs, at least on round start. Temp range, temp speed, because I am moving in, trying to get maybe some towers. Levels on the melting points where possible, and more hounds picked up all the way in the back. Shaft clear is the only thing that I need here. If I can shaft clear quicker, then my melting points should be able to get rid of the Abysses. Opponent now goes for double attack, double defense enhancement, mirroring the buffs that I had, and that will tremendously benefit these crawlers. And yeah, level 1 crawler will not be getting one-shot by my level 2 hounds in this scenario. Let's see, did we get enough? Ultra late hounds now arriving. Can we get rid of all of the chaff? Can we get rid of the arc lights and then get the Mustang stuck on our hounds? Perhaps. You can see here that the Abysses, okay, they do happen to hit my melting points, but they're high enough level that they can tank a shot, and it wasn't really locked onto my melter, it was locked onto a hound. Happened to pass through my giant. It looks like this time around we're in a much better spot. The hounds, some of them still alive. The Abyss is distracted. We get a tower debuff as I was hoping for. And on round 11, it does seem like we will be able to get this win. Even though it was a bit laborsome. And the Abyss there certainly doing very well. I have to say that Abyss has looked, you know, the best overall against this type of Fortress play. I have played it a bunch of times, and anytime Abyss showed up, it was a bit laborsome because, yeah, the Fortresses, they can be very good if you manage to get them early and get some tempo. They're very, very, very scary, even very good into things like Standard, Vulcan, and Melting Point. But, yeah, into Abyss, you need a very expensive comp, right? Especially level 2 Abyss, you kind of need a Melter, and then you're playing Fortress Melter. You need to make sure your Shafter is good enough, but we get there in the end. Now, if you're wondering what my opponent could have done, I did try a few different ideas, from leveling the Abysses to grabbing a third tech like Disintegration or Swarm Missiles. I tried stacking Wasps on one side to try and bully the Melters because I don't have, you know, any Mustangs or anti-Wasps, but none of those ideas really seemed to work. Every single time, you know, one of the sides would collapse. The chaff clear is just a bit of a problem, and the vertical sweep really doesn't help at all against, you know, just the armada of hounds swarming in by that point. So I'm not exactly sure on the last round. I feel like there is no good way of winning, but earlier on, perhaps going vertical sweep wasn't the move. I will say it won a round earlier, so it has that potential, but it's always a bit of a tricky tech to go for. Sometimes it wins rounds and wins games. Sometimes it can really cripple, you know, your overall just kind of chaff clearing ability because you pass through, you know, one, maybe two hounds instead of killing the whole pack, or, you know, multiple hounds at least by sweeping from left to right. So, yeah, not too sure about that, but it was a very cool game nonetheless. If you liked it, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about it, what you think of Solid Shot. Have you tried it? Have you faced it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Make sure to let me know. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.